Hey there, everyone. This is Jeff Murrin, talking some more about The Things They Carried by Tim O'Brien. I want to talk to you about a single chapter right now. It's the next to the last, I believe it's the next to the last chapter, called Nightlife. All right, a little pun, a little sarcastic way of looking at the concept of nightlife. You know, when we think of nightlife, we think of parties, we think of nights out on the town, we think of getting dressed up and dinner, dancing, nightclubs, all this kind of stuff. Well, nightlife's not necessarily the same when you're in Vietnam. They made a joke about it all the time, though. They made this joke of, well, we got a hell of a nightlife here in Vietnam. Of course, what they're talking about is night attacks and night guards and being scared to death through the night and all this kind of stuff. And we focus particularly in this chapter with a character named Rat Kylie. And we've talked about Rat Kylie before, and there have been other chapters that have kind of focused on him. All right, but this is one where he really starts to just be overwhelmed with the war. The war is just taking over everything, and he is about to crack under the pressure. All right, if you look at page 209, the very last paragraph there of 209, all right, it says, at first Rat just sank inside himself, not saying a word. But then later on, after 5 or 6 days, it flipped the other way. He couldn't stop talking. Wacky talk, too, talking about bugs, for instance, how the worst thing in Nam was the goddamn bugs, big, giant killer bugs. He'd say mutant bugs, bugs with fucked up DNA, bugs that were chemically altered by napalm and defoliants and tear gas and DDT. And he claimed the bugs were personally after his ass. He said he could hear the bastards homing in on him, swarms of mutant bugs, billions of them. They had him bracketed, whispering his name. He said his actual name all night long. It was driving him crazy. Sounds to me like he's already been driven there. All right. One thing I want to point out too is in this description, because this is a really well-written description, is the use of polysyndeton. Polysyndeton. I don't know if you've ever heard that in your English class or not, but polysyndeton is where we have the overabundance of conjunctions when we make a list. Instead of naming something, then comma, naming something else, comma, naming something else, comma, and this, we use, in place of that comma, an and each time. You would say things like, the giant killer bugs, he'd say mutant bugs, bugs with fucked up DNA, bugs that were chemically altered by napalm and defoliants and tear gas and DDT, so that and piles up with all, we get a sense of like all of the chemical weapons that were being employed during Vietnam. And so he's thinking, God, it's almost like we can see inside Rat Kylie's mind when he's saying, like, all of this stuff, all of these things are altering everything. Like, these are all bad. And they're everywhere. They're everywhere all the time. And so it's almost like it's eaten into his psyche to where he thinks, and maybe he's not wrong, everything is being affected by all of these different negative things. So many ways in Vietnam that things can be negatively impacted. All right? It says, all around you, everywhere, the whole dark countryside came alive. You could hear strange hum in your ears. Nothing specific. Nothing you could put your name on. Tree frogs maybe, or snakes, or flying squirrels, or who knew what. Like, the night had its own voice, that hum in your ears, and in the hours after midnight you'd swear you were walking through some kind of soft black protoplasm. Vietnam, the blood and the flesh. Last on page 212 we see it's like staring into this huge black crystal ball. One of these nights I'll be lying dead out there in the dark and nobody will find me except the bugs, those mutant bugs, remember? I can see it. I can see the goddamn bugs chewing tunnels through me. I can see the mongooses munching on my bones. I swear it's too much. I can't keep seeing myself dead. He is overcome with so many ways that he has seen tragedy strike. Tragedy is struck because of napalm. Tragedy is struck because of DDT. Tragedy is struck with this. It's altering everything. It's altering my perception. It's altering so much. This war is having effect on me. In the same way we saw that in the previous chapter where Tim O'Brien even states, like, the war had changed me. I used to be this, Phi Beta Kappa. I used to have these liberal moral values or whatever, and now I've become cold-hearted, whatever the case may be. But the thing is, we see, as we keep going through this book, that the war has really changed the way these people perceive things. All right? And I want you to keep that in mind, because when we get to the final chapter, we'll see that, yes, war has changed them. But as the old adage goes, the more things change, the more they stay the same. All right? So keep that in mind as we move to the last chapter. All right? Appreciate your time. This is an excellent book, and we're getting to the very end of it, and almost hate to see it go. All right? So take in that last chapter, and as you do, and as always, happy reading.